Hi everybody, welcome to Tidalwave Studio. My name is Damiani and today I would like to walk you through a complete build-up and recording and real-time mixing of a drum set. Alright, a couple days ago I had a drum recording session with Marcel Millot, who was the session drummer for an artist I'm working with, and I asked him if he wouldn't mind me taking like a time lapse of the build-up of the drum set, take a couple pictures of his set, and I also asked him if he would like to play me just a little groove so that we have some material to show how to mix a drum set. He agreed, and here we are. So let's have a look at the time lapse, and then I'm going to walk you through all the microphones we used on the set. Okay, let's have a look at the microphones we used. Let me start with the overheads. I used a pair of small diaphragm condensers from Ships as spot mics for the two crashes we used. On the bass drum, I used the Beta Shure 52 inside, and on the outside, a custom-made sub-kick, which is using like a woofer of a speaker to capture the low end of the bass drum. Then on the snare, my favorite snare microphone, the Biodynamic M420N, which is basically similar to the M201, but it's much smaller, so it really can fit in tight spaces. That's why I like to use it on snare top, and it also sounds very open and very natural. On the bottom I have the Biodynamic M201, which is pointed directly at the snare wires. On the small tom, I also use the Biodynamic M201. It's a really great microphone for all that percussive stuff. And on the floor tom, I used an Aston Stealth. I really like the low end that this microphone is giving me. On the hi-hat, I've used the Neumann KM184. Then as a closed room microphone, I used my custom built stereo microphone. If you want to see how I build that thing or how it's actually working, I have a video that is showing everything you need to know about it. And finally, I used a pair of ribbon microphones outside of the recording room. I left the door open so that the drums could spill out into the lounge, which is an untreated room, and we could pick up a more lively sound to mix under the more dry and close-up microphones inside the recording room. Alright, let's go and mix these drums together from scratch. I removed all plugins, everything, so that you can follow my thoughts while I'm going for the mix and see what we come up with. It's not ideal to mix drums completely without any musical context because you would maybe take different decisions if there was music around, but since we don't have any music yet, well, this is part of a recording that is not released yet, we don't have any music, so we're going to pre-mix the drums in a way that we would have a very good starting point to add in instruments and then, adjust as needed. Let's listen to the raw tracks first, do basic leveling, and then, let's see what happens. Okay, very rough. Now let's polish this. I would like to start with the overheads, see what we have, what they sound like, and then start adding in other elements. I'm going to solo the overheads. Okay, there is some harshness in the cymbals. I mic them pretty closely to have a big focus on the cymbals and less on the shells, on the other drums. So sometimes you get a little bit of harshness. So we are going to put in a soothe plugin just to remove a little bit of that harshness in a dynamic way. focusing on that crash hit for a second. It's usually around like 4 or 5K without, with. That's already better. It's a little bit smoother. Let me add in an EQ. It's a little bit too much of this cook cook from the snare. I want to remove that a little bit. Okay, that sounds fine. Let's add in the snare top to see what they sound like together. Okay, let me first raise the volume a little bit. Let's check the phase. Okay, flipping the phase on the snare is a good idea because you get back all the body and all the weight. They were canceling out each other. I put it back and forth so that you can hear again. So without phase correction. With. Now it sounds healthy. Let's see if we want to EQ something on the snare. Add a little bit of brilliance maybe. Remove a little bit of boxiness. Maybe boost a little bit of fundamental. That's pretty nice. Let's check for bleed on the snare because I think we have a lot of hi-hat bleeding into the snare. Yeah. I tried to get rid of this with a multiband compressor. So we are going to remove the high end and just open up with the expander function when a snare hit is actually playing. So what I'm doing is pulling down everything above, let's say, 1K. And now we are going to use the expand function to quickly open up when the snare is playing. I'm adding some look ahead so that the compressor is hearing the snare hit basically before it's happening, so it can react instantaneously. So as you can see now, all the high end is pulled down except when the snare is playing, so that we have our impact, our high end on the impact, but remove all the bleed from the hi-hat. I like that. Let's check the snare bottom mic. Going to pull in an EQ and see how they work together if we need to flip the phase here as well. Let me also add a little bit of gain. Let's flip the phase and see what happens. Snare top and bottom together. A little bit fuller if I also flip the phase. I must say that usually you would say, yeah, but the phase must be the opposite side on the bottom microphone as on the top microphone. But I use different preamps and I used the console for the bottom microphone and I don't have a phase flip on that console. So I have to do it in the session. Okay, let's EQ a little bit. Add a little bit of brilliance. I want to get rid of that boxiness, so I'm pulling down heavily in the low mids. A little bit of papery sound around here, 800-ish. Okay, that's pretty nice. Now let's have a look at the kick. We have two microphones, the Beta 52 inside and the subkick outside. Let's see how both work together if we need to flip the phase on one of them. Now, if I flip the phase, it's getting hollow, so we can assume that both work fine together. Now, from the subkick, I only want the lows, so I'm going to high cut everything above, let's say, 100 Hertz, and just keep the low end and do something opposite on the inside microphone so that both work together. So we have the low end from the subkick and all the rest from the internal microphone. Okay, the internal microphone, let's put in an EQ. Want to get rid of that upper low end. Also a little bit those papery mids. Okay, that's nice. Now I'm going to put both into a folder and then work on the bass drum as if it was one microphone. So all EQing or compression or whatever we are going to do it for both at the same time. So I'm going to put them into a folder. We're going to name it kick. So now we only have like one fader left for the complete bass drum. Oops, okay. Going to change the color. I'm going to increase the volume a little bit. Let's add an EQ. A little bit too bass heavy. I don't want it too clicky, so I'm going to remove a little bit of that punch up there. Let's add a little bit of compression. I kind of like this setting here for its behavior in the detection path. So not too clicky, not too hyped. I want it a little bit old school. So that's why we're going to leave it like this now. Okay, we close the folder. That's already pretty nice. Now let's see what the hi-hat is doing. I always like to track and mix drums from viewer's perspective, so not from drummer's perspective. That's why I'm going to pan the hi-hat to the right now, the way you would see it when you look at the drummer from audience perspective. Okay. Now let's have a look at the room microphone. So first the wooden head room, which is basically the close room microphone. I like to use that microphone to get like a realistic view of the kit. So we have all the close mics, and I count the overheads also as close mics because I'm mainly using them for the overheads. So my close room mic is like what you would hear from the kit when you're standing in the room in front of the set, and just like blending everything nicely together. It also has a little bit of harshness in the cymbals, so I'm going just to copy the soothe from the overhead track and see what that does. Yeah, I like it. It's just removing a little bit of harshness when the cymbals are playing. Let's put in an EQ. I don't want too much bass drum on this room microphone. The bass drum sounds nice there, and sometimes I even boost the low end on the room microphone depending on the set and the situation. But here I like the way the bass drum microphones sound together, and I don't want to wash that out by having too much room, too much bass drum in the room. So I'm going to remove a little bit of that. That's already better. Let's also remove a little bit of this lower high end, because I don't want the room to sound too splashy. Okay, let me add in a bit of compression. I go for a very fast attack just to mellow out the room a little bit, and also fast release so that it's always coming back quickly enough to catch the next hit. adding like three-dimensionality to the drum set if we add this room. Okay, so still a little bit too much bass drum information on that room track for my taste. So what we're going to do is we're going to send some bass drum on a bus that I'm going to name kick. And we're going to send this out pre-fader. So then we can put a compressor, multiband compressor, something like this on the room track and duck down the low end every time the bass drum is playing. So I'm going to put out that bus first. So here we have a send from the bass drum microphone. We're going to put it pre-fader so that it's always active, or even if we don't listen to the bass drum engage. So now when it's playing, it's going to send out some bass drum information out to this bus. And now we are going to go on our room track, put in, let's say, Pro Q4. I'm going to select this bus for the sidechain input. And now what we're going to do is we're going to make a dynamic band in the lows and tell it to listen to the external sidechain with this button. And now, as you can see, every time the bass drum is playing, I can remove some low end from the room, and only when the bass drum is playing, not all the time, because I like what it's doing when the toms are playing. So I just want to get rid a little bit of this honky low end when the bass drum is playing. Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's listen to everything together so far. Let's lower the overheads a little bit. Okay, so far so good. Now let's see what the far rooms are doing. This was the pair of ribbon microphones that were standing outside of the recording room, basically in an untreated room, capturing, yeah, some ambience that we can add into the drier sound of inside the recording room. Let's listen to that track solo for a second. First of all, I want to remove some impact. I just want it to be like basically a reverb, so without real attack. So let's try and remove some attack from that signal. What I like to use is a plugin called Spiff. The same company that's making Soothe, where you can boost or cut transients. We are going to cut. So without, with, just softening the transits a little bit. Then let's EQ a little bit in here. First of all, I don't need all that high end from the room. Room microphones often sound better for what they're supposed to do when you have less splashy highs. You want more of the mids and like this tonal information and less the harsh high end. So we're going to put a high cut. There's also some honkiness from the snare here. We're going to remove that. Some boxiness. Still a little bit too much transient. Let's add in a transient designer and see if we can remove even more of that attack. And boost the sustain a little bit. We want this to be kind of reverb if you want. That's okay. Now I also want to do the same thing as we did on the close room, remove some bass drum when the bass drum is playing. Let me see if I can just copy that EQ. That's nice. It's really removing all this boominess down in the lower register when the bass drum is playing. There's nothing of value for us here. So we're going to leave it like this. Now let's listen to everything together. Yeah, that far room microphone is really adding some ambience. It lets the drum set sound as if it was recorded in a much bigger space. All right, we still have the toms to take care of. I'm not a big friend of gates, but I'm not a big friend of spill either. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit the toms. Let's see what we have. I just want to keep the tom hits without all the cymbals and all that stuff in. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut them clean. I'm just editing manually. And what I like to do is, I don't want that cymbal hit, for example, but if I was going to cut it very closely like this, then it's maybe a little bit too short. I want to keep the sustain of the tom. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this to spectral editing. And here we can see the tom hit with the sustain, but while the sustain is still there, there's already this cymbal playing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to select all this, select attenuate, and just attenuate all that stuff. So we keep the sustain of the tom, but remove all that bleed from the cymbal. Send it back, render it, and now I'm going to apply like a gentle fade out. So we keep more of the sustain. Now I can do this for the other hits as well. Here there is not a lot of cymbals, so we can do it like this. I think here is another hit. Here was another hit. Here we're going to do the same trick again. Remove all that crap here. Even a little bit. Can replace here a little bit of that second tom hit. Then put a gentle fade out. This hit was a little bit soft, so we're going to clip gain it up a little bit. Now I'm going to do this with all the toms, and I'm going to come back when it's done. All right, that's done. Now let's see if we want to EQ the toms a little bit. Let me first make them a little bit louder. Just use an L2 as a leveling instrument. Okay. Now let's see if we want to EQ the toms a little bit. I want to enhance the low end a little bit. Just going to boost the fundamental and remove a little bit of boxiness in the lower mids. Sounding like cardboard box here. That's already better. Let's have a look at the floor tom. We're also going to pan the toms. Again, audience perspective, so the rack tom is a little bit to the right and the floor tom will be to the left. Not 100%, but yeah, let's say 50% in each direction. Let's EQ this floor tom also a little bit. Also going to enhance the low end a bit. I want to boost the lowest frequency, which is here around 60, 70, and then cut a little bit of the first harmonic, which will be like the double frequency most of the time. This is a region where the tom can sound a little bit boxy. It's just cleaning the signal a little bit, boosting low end and removing the lower mids here. I like that. Okay, now I'm also going to put the toms into a folder, and I can use them like with one fader. All right, let's listen to what we have now. Maybe remove a little bit of harshness in the room. I really like what the far room is doing. If I cut it, we really lose some depth. I will see later in the mix where if I even need any reverb on the drums or if I can get away with just using those far room microphones. Okay, that's not too shabby. I hope you could follow along with what I was doing here. If you have any more questions, let me know. But I think this would be like a good foundation to then add in the instruments and see if we need to make more changes just to blend everything nicely together. But I like what we are hearing here, and you see it was just a matter of a little bit EQing, maybe removing some harshness, and then some balancing. And at the end of the day, if you have like a really good performance captured in a nice room, it's not so difficult to mix the drums. Really pay attention to the phase relationship. That's very, very important. Yeah, and then the balance of the individual elements. Oftentimes remove a little bit of, lower mids because they tend to build up and give you like a card boxy sound. On some elements like snare, it's nice to add a little bit of top end sheen, and on toms and on bass drum, it's nice to boost a little bit the fundamental, just to get a tiny bit of a smiley curve. Good low end, not too many mids, not too little, of course, but remove that boxy area and then add a little bit of shine where it's needed, and then you're good to go. Okay, then let's listen to the result that we have now and listen to the full performance of that little beat that Marcel played for me. Alright, thanks for watching this complete video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope there was something of value for you. If you like this, leave me a comment. I always enjoy reading your comments. And subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. And see you in another video. Bye bye.